All right, everyone, I had to hit record because my guest today is amazing. So we've been chatting, so I hit record. His name is Sam Sharma, and I am so grateful and blessed and excited that he joins me today on this episode of the Wake Up Call podcast. Welcome, Sam.
Oh, thank you very much, Melinda, for this awesome intro. And let's wake up together, shall we?
Yeah, absolutely. So Sam is the founder and CEO of Elevate AI Tech, and he lives in London, and he has such an amazing background. I'm just going to hit some nuggets here. I'll put more in the show notes, and you'll learn more about Sam as we have our conversation. But he really helps leaders and companies increase margins, compress time, reduce stress through the power of AI. And a lot of this is just really based on his gifts and his own personal journey with being like overwhelmed, stressed out, however you were going to put it, as he shares his journey of how he is now doing what he's doing. So I'm going to kick it off to you, my friend. Tell us about your wake-up call.
My big call, right? So, following all the narratives we were speaking about earlier, I was literally the life was all mapped out perfectly, right? You need to do these qualifications. You will end up with this job. That's the rise in the corporate ladder, and that's how you're gonna get. That was the model of life that was mapped out. But something was not connecting because no one told me that as part of that journey, you kind of will burn out if you don't know what you're really aligning yourself to. And as a consequence of that, that's exactly what happened. Like I was putting in all the hours and I can't sleep at night, super stressed and trying to figure this whole puzzle of the corporate life out, thinking, how do I make this work? And before I know, started losing my sleep, no time for the family or for my own well-being and all that. And then I just collapsed on the floor on one of the million-dollar projects that I was running. The body or the mind just switched off. It just couldn't handle the pressure after a while. And with that was my wake-up call because I knew something has kind of gone. And I could see the signs coming in, but I didn't kind of call myself out.
Mhm.
A few days ago, prior to this happening, I was speaking to my dad, and he goes to me, "What's wrong with your life? You have got everything. What's wrong with you?" I was like, "I don't know, Dad. I just can't sleep anymore." You know? So, and then the pressure comes up, but everyone else is doing it. So why can't you do it?
Mhm.
And this is one of the key things to understand the dynamics of being I call it being a learner, being a leader, or being a loser. And I think we need to kind of learn to climb these ladders because was I learning from my mistakes or was I actually losing out on the time I should have spent with my family or built my well-being,
Mhm.
right? So I
Mhm.
had the corporate life, yet I was actually a loser.
Mhm.
But when I have my own business, I'm actually went from being a loser to being a leader to being a learner. And that's the key component that we need to kind of nail down to. And
Mhm.
we need to learn from either our mistakes and wake up, or if we are really, really smart, then learn from other people's mistakes
Mhm.
rather than this something happening to you because we all think that we are all very unique and individual and we are stuck in our own I think we're stuck in our own egos and bodies thinking that my experience is so unique that there's no one else out there who's going through what I'm going through. That's not true. Just like a phone or a TV, you can have a kit. Sorry, my screen turned off. You can have like a manual that comes with it. Yeah, I think humans also come with that kind of manuals.
Mhm.
And these manuals are all the psychology books and all the problems that we all experience as a collective race. Yet each generation forgets the previous generation and repeats the same mistakes all over,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if I gave you that answer or not, but it kind of my wake up call was that moment when I knew that something is not aligning
Mhm.
and something's got to give here, and I can't go back in the environment that was creating so much toxicity in my body. Yet I was following a narrative of how a life should be led.
Yeah, yeah. No, I really appreciate this share. One of the big reasons too, I wanted you to have on the podcast, not only I just think you're amazing, but because you're a male sharing this story. And the conversation of burnout and exhaustion, which leads to so many health issues. Obviously, you said you fell on the floor, is being shared more and more, which is really important, but mostly by women and not enough by men. And I think that having the courage to share this, because it's just driven in us that we need to be this way, and not really having an understanding of where that can lead, I think is important. And how long would you say that cycle was for you? To just add a little bit more context for people, because I feel like
Yeah,
people
so
might be in that cycle.
yeah. So you see, I'm a son of an expat. So
Mm.
we were traveling a lot. So lived in 19 different countries. And there is a price to pay when you live life like this, because you don't have a home, so to speak. You don't have anywhere you settle down because your friends are always changing. You know, the schooling systems are changing, and you're always kind of trying to compete against something because you're trying to find a sense of belonging. And you go through that journey slightly differently than a lot of other people will if they were settled in one place and had a community around them. So I think it starts from the childhood where you are kind of driven, that you are fueled, that you will only get acceptance if you get the results.
Mm.
And that acceptance comes from, okay, from parenting and all that. Okay, you're a good child or a bad child if you're getting good grades in school and stuff. And if you're not, then well, you're not really hitting the benchmark, right? That we set for you. That's the least we expect of you. So there's that emotional blackmailing taking place. So
Mm.
you're always up against a performance parameter, which is okay. I understand. Like, we all have to put that drive, plant the seed of drive in us. But what cost is it coming at? Now, in school, you get grades, so you get marked. When you come into jobs, you start to measure the same thing from either salary, pay rises, or bonuses.
Mm.
And if you end up with a boss who can bully you, you suddenly in a very confused state because you were following a model of another time in another dimension. Let's say I have a map of New York, but I'm living in London trying to follow the same map of New York. I can't find my streets anymore,
Right.
right? Those streets don't even exist anymore, but I'm still living by the wrong map. And
Mm.
that's exactly how life kind of panned out. It came out in the job environment, trying to follow the same model of the schooling system and grades and achievement and acceptance and love, unconditional love, and all that. In job, you don't get any of that.
Mm.
And you've got office politics, toxicity of the boss who's a bully, right? So it fuels, you've got two options. You can either quit job or you can say, I'm going to double in my effort. I'm going to prove that I will do it, right? And that was the model of operandi that I was under.
Mm.
So I started to work more hours trying to prove. But as I chased that approval, they kept on moving the goalpost away and away and away.
Mm.
Because I gave away all my power to these people to move the goalpost away because I was chasing their approval each time.
Mm.
And as a consequence, my bonuses were coming down and I'm not getting the outcomes that I'm after, despite putting 10 times more effort and sacrificing on the personal stuff. Right. And that's the price you pay for losing that balance. But when I came out on the other side and kind of realized that who I am and what I was trying to do were two different things,
Mm.
that's what was giving birth to inner conflicts.
Mm.
That I think is nothing to do with male or female narratives. I think is more to do with self-awareness.
Yeah.
And that can come to any of our forms. We are souls at the end of the day accepted in these different forms of sexual orientations and stuff.
Mhm.
So when you come back to our native origins or understanding that how we are same, we will start to understand that if I exist, so do people like me out there who need help,
Mhm.
who never reached out to anyone. Because who could I tell that, oh, you know what, I'm stressed? I don't even know if I'm stressed.
Mhm.
All I know is I'm waking up in the night with nightmares and sweaty palms. What are they sign of? Or just a bad day? No, no, no. That's a sign of someone who suffers from PTSD.
Mhm. Mhm.
I've
Yeah.
never been to a war. So where is this PTSD coming from? Well, that's coming from childhood experiences.
Mhm.
That awareness, I never had it when I was going through this,
Right.
right? How many of us humans are suffering from exactly the same things? That's the real question to ask. Do we even know we have PTSDs? We
Mhm.
don't even realize that because we associate that disorder with people who come from the wars.
Mhm. Yeah.
You could be
Yeah.
living a normal life and still have those symptoms
Mhm.
and never get the right help because you never recognized that you had this need.
Mhm.
So this is the key part. You need to become the change that you want to implement in others first. That's the first wake-up call that comes in your journey.
Mhm.
You know, who do you want to be? Who do
Mhm.
you want to be associated with? If you let go of approval of others for a minute and just say, well, you know what, that's not who I am,
Mhm.
but this is who I am.
Mhm.
So in my journey, I just wrote my first book at the time. That was the book. I wrote the first book,
Oh, wow.
right?
Amazing.
That was me back in the day in the banking life. So I just came out, knew nothing, just my mind was gone. And I was like, okay, I understand money and I understand emotions. And moreover, I understand my emotions and how I never got into debt and built a mortgage-free life.
Mhm.
That's all I can share. And that's
Mhm.
exactly what I did in that book.
Mhm.
So by doing this kind of activity, it got my head in a different space altogether.
Mhm.
Taking action, I was able to override an emotional state.
Mhm.
And it created another kind of emotion, which was it propelled me into taking more desirable steps.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I asked for 10 volunteers who I can help implement some of the things that I do in the financial coaching.
Mhm.
And they stood by me and they said, this guy changed our life.
Mhm.
And the only way I could do that was because I understood that I'm no longer seeking approval of these people.
Mhm.
Few years later, the same people got in touch, and now they were looking for my approval
Mhm.
because they led the life, but the way they never came out of. I had fallen out because I knew I don't fit in that box. You see, for months, Melinda, I was struggling. Why did I not get to retire in an investment bank?
Mhm. Wow.
Why did it happen to me, not to all these people who've done 20 years, 30 years, 40 years in a bank?
Mhm.
Well, I wasn't cut out. That's
Mhm.
one way of putting it. Secondly, it wasn't aligned to who I truly am.
Mhm.
I was following a narrative to be a banker.
Mhm.
So I have everything, the qualifications, the experience, but deep inside, there was something else. That was the entrepreneurial side.
Mhm.
So when it came out, this is the thing that I wrote in my this book that came out earlier this year, right? The
Uh-huh.
first part in the first chapter, the first realization I wrote was exactly around that. That, I don't know if you can see this, when you stand in your calling, there is no competition.
Yes. Yep. I talk a lot
This,
about destiny. So just understanding your destiny, then there's no
yeah,
competition. Yep.
yeah. So for me, it was just that letting
Yeah.
go, that wake up, aligned me to do what I love doing, even when there is no money, which was to help others, to
Mhm.
guide others. So I started connecting wisdom with experience, wisdom and knowledge coming together to help people just like me. Who
Mhm.
are people like me? People who are driven, people who are hungry, and people who believe that their future will be better than their past.
Mhm.
These are the core components I started to connect within myself. And as I'm connecting this, my articulation is improving because now I can not only put on a hat of, oh, you're a project manager in an investment bank or you're a VP. Now I'm a salesperson, I'm a marketing person, I'm a director, I'm a finance guy. You name it, I'm doing it,
Mhm.
right? So what does that mean? All of this thing was sitting there dormant within. All it needed was a realignment and the energy started to flow.
Mhm.
This is what I mean when I say when you stand in your calling, there
Mhm.
is no competition because this is your own unique calling. You
Right.
meant for it. So
Mhm.
you just need to accept that. Sometimes we run away from it. For example, my mom and dad, my dad's a professor in university, is retired now. My mom was a doctor and lecturer in medical college. So you see, this was always in my family line. My inheritance was not the properties or money, it was the education that I was gaining from their lifestyles. It was always there,
Right. Mhm.
right? So when I actually embraced it, the biggest change that I did was I removed the labels of my
Mhm.
experiences. There
Mhm.
was no such thing as bad, ugly, horrible experience. It
Mhm.
was just what did I learn? What did I learn? What did I learn? What did I learn?
Mhm.
And we are nothing but collection of our learnings.
Mhm.
Remove the labels and you will see the power. When we see our learnings and we learn to commercialize it, we have a unique business that no one can compete with
Mhm.
because it's
Yeah.
your insights. You
Yeah.
learn to commercialize your insights, right?
Yeah, absolutely. What I'd love to ground to for the audience, and this has been a big part of my journey, so I want to make sure I do a good job for everyone out there, is number one, Do you feel that if you wouldn't have collapsed on the floor, that you would have kept going and perhaps for a certain amount of time? Like what's your take on that?
Very, very interesting. 2 points I will give you. One, I would not know when to stop or how to stop.
Mhm.
Fear of embarrassment, fear of not letting others down, providing for the family, all of those factors were playing in my head at the time. That was one thing. Secondly, when I did collapse, I learned after a few years, I joined the gym with a personal trainer, and I told the personal trainer not to push me
Mhm.
because the push and drive is already in me. Tell me when to stop because I don't know when to not to injure myself because I'm prone to injuries because I don't know when to stop.
Interesting.
That's the part I said about the lessons you will learn are very unique here.
Yeah, I love that. What did your trainer say?
He was really cool. He was like, "Oh, normally it's the other way around."
Yeah, right?
So he loved it that I could. He was like, he said, I don't meet people like you quite often.
Yeah.
But he
Ex-
doesn't know that journey comes from childhood when we had to push, put to get approval, to get grades so that we are approved of our existence and we get unconditional love.
Right.
So when you are running from those patterns, and how many of us humans are exactly on these patterns?
Mhm. Lots.
And God knows where that comes from, right? Our parents, they might have been carrying this from their parents, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
just generational thing getting passed down the chain, right?
Right. Right. And then comparison and throw in all these other factors that we now have. So, and then what would you say in terms of time
Hmm.
from because you mentioned, then you were like kind of in a comparison, I'm paraphrasing here of, why didn't it work out for me, right? Like why didn't the financial aspect in terms of your past job work out. So what was the time that took you from having those emotional thoughts to being at a place where you're comfortable and you're like, okay, this is really my calling. Like I'm okay. I've moved through the fact that that
Hmm.
wasn't my path, like in terms of time.
So I will say about 2 years roughly.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember sitting by the beach on the south coast here, and I got the book, didn't know what to do with the book. So I was just chatting with one of the neighbors who I had received this parcel of. And he said to me, "Oh, why don't you come and tell us about your book in a networking event?" I
Mm-hmm.
was like, "Okay." So I went there and I just gave a little talk. And that was it. Didn't think much about it, forgot about it. And then someone called me to talk about the work that I do, and they wanted to do some work with me, an interior designing firm. And that was the beginning. And even at that time, I was advertising, "Oh, I can help you with this, that, and the other." I was getting random calls from some colleges that, "Can you come and install our computer systems and stuff like that?" Because I am a very multifaceted kind of guy. I connect the dots between psychology, strategies, and technology.
Mm-hmm.
So I could put on these hats to help people on different aspects. So I thought, okay, so I can coach people on the financial side, and also I can implement technology for these people. So done with you and done for you. I can do both things. But the biggest question for me was, am I aligned? So I kept on asking that myself, am I aligned? Or how am I feeling here? I
Mm-hmm.
always kept on asking that intuition or guidance that tell me. And if it doesn't fit right, I will walk away from it. I won't sell myself for money like I used to in the banking days,
Mm-hmm.
that I have to do it no matter what. I was like, no, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So whatever the savings started to come down, I was like paying for everything and stuff like that, but still I didn't had the income that I to support my lifestyle and stuff. But at the time when this networking event started to kick off, and I was like, okay, I started to turn up to the events. This lady stood up and she said, "This guy changed our life and our business." That's when I started to see patterns that a lot of people I will talk to, they will come to me with more or less the same things. And as the years rolled on, 12 years fast forward, I could see that most of their problems are falling in three categories. Either there is a mindset problem, or there is a strategy problem, or it's a technology issue.
Mm.
And chances are it's interconnected because if they haven't mastered one, it's also getting impacted. Impact is also on the other aspects.
True. Mm-hmm.
And as a consequence of nailing these three things, you derive the financial aspects of the business.
Mhm.
right? So for example, oh, I can't start the business because I don't have money. Well, that's a money issue or a mind issue.
Mhm.
Promise you it's a mind issue to start off.
Mhm.
But they will make it sound like it's a money issue, not a mind issue,
Mhm.
right? So we really need to know if one of the key skills we learn as entrepreneurs is, are you resourceful?
Mhm.
You need to be resourceful. You need to be connected. You need to build relationships. That's your real currency here. You
Mhm.
need to know who to reach out to. And when you have the network of trusted people around you, credible people around you, then they become your support networks. They will lift you up
Mhm.
because you've learned to leverage them. You've learned to master the skill of building relation, and the relationship is paying you back in the support that you need,
So true.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
those are the aspects that I started to master. So over 2 years it took me, and I kind of went from being a banker, earning top wage, coming down to zero, and then restarting this thing and then doubling in income than I ever did in bank. And all in my own, at my own terms, rather than following a boss or someone bullying me. No, it was simply being there for people and meeting them at the level they are at, not at the level where I was, because I was already done a lot of work on myself at that time.
Mhm.
I knew where the pains were coming from. I knew where the awareness work needed to take place. Being true to who you are, being more aligned to your calling, right? And help people for the sake of helping, even when nothing comes back.
Yeah.
Because universe works in a very beautiful way. And
Mhm.
it what goes around comes around.
Mhm.
Even if it comes from some other sources, it doesn't matter.
Right.
you know
Right.
so
That's so true.
being more real, I think growing up, being more mature in the thinking, it really pays.
Mm.
It
Yeah.
really helps when you see the bigger picture. And besides that, remember, I call myself a global citizen purely because after traveling so much and meeting so many people globally, you don't see the differentiation, you only see the similarities.
Mm.
You don't really cut our hand, it's the same blood comes out.
Mhm.
So don't get caught up on what's on the front of the box.
Mhm.
You got to look at inside the box. That's why judging something from the face or the cover of the book, that's like, there was a very interesting thing I read. Judging is easy, thinking is hard. That's why most people judge, or something like that. Judging is very easy.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard something. I know where you go. I've heard something similar, and you're right. It is. It is. We're wired. I don't like who knows why
Yeah.
we're wired this way, but yeah, I've had my own journey of moving through judgment and from being raised how I was raised, so I totally understand. Yeah,
Mm.
that's amazing. I wanted to ask the time thing for the audience out there because we tend to think that all these changes happen like that.
Mm.
And then you get stuck and you get frustrated and you think something's wrong or you're wrong or, you're doing the wrong thing and it's not. So I really appreciate that you shared that journey. We've gone through that journey with my husband and I call it ego death. And I would say it took all of last year for him to finally realize that he's not just a sport fishing captain, he's also a teacher. And
Mm.
for him, he had so much attachment to being a sport fishing captain since
Identity,
he was
yeah.
in childhood.
Yeah.
Like that was what he wrapped his identity in. And he still is a captain. You're
Yeah.
still an amazing financial person. Like it's not like it really changes, it just morphs more into your destiny, right?
Yeah, I think it's
So
one. So I think we have got multiple identities,
mhm.
but we tend to kind of focus on, like, for example, inside that investment banks, the building itself, I was a VP. But when I saw the VP who retired in front of me committing suicide 3 weeks later, that made me think, like, this person was nobody outside that building. He had nothing. That's why he was always working. And we used to think, man, he's got no life.
Yeah, he wrapped his
I
identity
remember
in
when he
them.
retired, we had a big party and he stood outside the building looking at the building like this because he didn't know what to do with himself after that,
That's incredible.
right? So this is another point of wake up call, is that who am I if I'm so connected with my job? Am I a job, or is it something I'm doing?
Right.
Because I'm not, my identity doesn't come from what I do from in that time being. My identity comes from who I am. So
Mhm.
what part of you are you accepting? Are you accepting the fact that, oh, Sam, the VP, now I love myself? Or Sam, I love you for who you are because you
Mhm.
are a child of God. Same thing.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we need to really look for where our approvals are coming from. If they're coming from artificial impositions on the mind, such as a job or a rich partner or someone who gives you status and royalty, you got some serious questions to ask.
Mhm.
Serious questions to ask because it leaves you very shallow eventually.
Yes. 100%. How do you share this now? You have two children, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
How do you share all this wisdom with your kids? And are they interested? Because I feel
Yeah.
as much as I love my parents and my grandparents, I never received any wisdom. It was like work hard, save money. That was it.
Yeah.
And it's something I treasure as
Yeah.
an outsider, being that we're child free. So I'd love for you to share with the audience.
Well, the youngest one is too little. Other than putting some boundaries on him, there's not much we can logically build because this is just a pure bundle of emotion. You
Mhm.
know, he's only two. But Olivia, she's quite elder and mature, much maturer than I was at her age.
Mhm.
So she's part of the church group. She's really into. She knows what wisdom is, what how to make good decisions, right decisions,
Mhm.
you know. But there are times when she gets trapped in, you know, her own journey as well, and
Mhm.
that's where we can literally guide her, you know. But she sees, like, for example, once a week she has half an hour with me, business class. So we only discuss what business ideas she has. She was 7 years old when she created a thinking stick. She didn't even know. She was like, oh, I've created, she literally had a pen, no, and chopstick or something, and she decorated it. And she said, when I scratch my face like this, I get an idea. And we created a product called the thinking stick. So I encouraged it from there. Like, you know, I said, look, you will never be at this age again. What problems do you see in your age group? Let's
Mhm.
solve these problems. And if you solve that, you have a business.
Right.
So I'm already planting the right seed in her and encouraging her to understand entrepreneurship and understand, you know, but also know that if you may not end up in a job straight being the business owner. You
Mhm.
need to work your way to really get there,
Mhm.
right? No point dreaming about these things unless you were willing to put in the work.
Mhm.
So it's a journey. It's a journey. I will say we instill the right values, but
Yeah.
remember, as I said, the values must be connected with the purpose,
Mhm.
because values without a purpose is a meaningless life.
True.
So we need to give her a framework where she can find that purpose and implement those values she's already getting in the family.
Mhm.
So that's the missing part, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that so it's a half an hour every week that you do business. Okay.
That's right.
Gosh, if anyone takes away a tip from this, well, I'm going to say two that are just like so dead on, right? Is if you have a child, do what Sam's doing and spend half an hour a week. Like that's gold. That's like, I
Just
mean,
plant the seed. Plant the
yeah,
seed. It will
just
come out.
yeah, and something. And then number two, how you said you always ask yourself is if this is aligned.
Yeah.
And I do that too. And I have to remind myself to do that, right? Because we get so busy and we operate on autopilot and the days fly by. And that's a reminder. That's like training your brain to remind yourself to do that. Do you have
Well,
any
it's very
tips on that?
interesting because I don't get to, I just feel when I listen to something or something's happening, I will feel an energy and I will be in tune to how I felt in that moment. And
Yeah,
if it didn't sit right, I know something's not aligned.
right.
Just know it.
But people
It's an,
still ignore it. People will still ignore it.
yeah, but remember, we've been through a journey of knowing that ignoring this side, we paid a price.
Mhm.
And my promise to my own self is I don't want to pay that price of inner conflicts anymore.
Mhm. Yep.
Right? So if I'm listening to that and if I'm thinking this may create an inner conflict from what I'm trying to be or who I truly am, then I need to really understand the motives behind what's happening.
Right. Right. Yeah. It all goes to awareness, but
100%.
you're at a different level. I've had my own journey too, and where I'm hoping this podcast really helps those people that are like in that middle, right? They're getting up there, they're having their wake up call, and and just to be like, okay, yes, it's okay. It's actually like a good thing to check in
Mm.
with yourself. It makes sense to check in with yourself. I need to check in with myself. I need to listen. And one of the things you and I were talking about before we hit record was, the distractions,
Mm.
right? Like the TikTok thing, which is not on my phone anymore, for
Yeah.
sure. And that comes with that. When you eliminate distractions, then you hear that, you feel that,
Yeah.
more
So
often.
I'll give you a little hack on distractions if your audience
Yeah,
is willing to hear
I love
that.
it.
So one of the key things is people love to make a list of goals and the objectives they want, but they
Mhm.
never make a list of distractions. Make a list of
Mm.
distractions. You'll be shocked at the level of awareness when you will be distracted. Seriously, I'm not kidding. You see,
I believe
look at
it.
this. I'll show you something. If you put your hand between yourself and me in front of the camera, right,
Okay.
you should be able to see me through the gaps in the finger, right? Now,
Yes.
don't look at me and look at the palm of your hand. Look at all the details of your hand, ups and downs, perfections and imperfections. Now, you know that I am there, but you can't see me. Hold on to that
Oh, okay.
hand.
Okay.
Just trust me on this. Hold on to that hand.
This is fun.
So you know that I'm there, right?
Mhm.
But you can't really see me, can you?
No, I really can't.
Okay. And now try to look at me through the fingers.
Oh.
Keep looking at me. Can
Hmm.
you see your hand?
No, not
But you
really.
know it's there, right?
Right. Hmm.
That's it. There you go. Our goals and our distractions are both in front of us.
Hmm.
Wherever your focus is going to go, that's going to become bigger for you. When you call it out, that's the distraction and it's on my list, you will see through to your goal straight away.
Gosh, I love that. I'm like obsessed with like crushing distractions, but I've
Hmm.
never made a list. So I crushed two within the last 24 hours. One
Awesome.
magically happened. One magically happened. It was on my list, but I was in a contract. So I was
Okay.
like, how do I get out of this? And like this crazy thing happened and I got out. Like, oh my God. And then one I eliminated myself. And distractions aren't just looking at your phone. I mean, there's so many
Hmm.
avenues for distractions. And so, yeah, I've crushed two big ones in the last 24 hours, but I'm
I
going to make a
remember
list
when,
now and see what else I
yeah,
can crush as a
you'll be
game.
amazed. When I started my business journey, it was very hard to pick up the phone and make the sales call.
Mhm.
Really hard because coming from banks, we never did such things. So my distraction was let me go and put the kettle on to have a coffee.
Yes, it's
I
so
tell you, this was to run
right.
away from that thing. And then I
Mhm.
will come back, something else will happen. Let's just build on some technology, forget about calling, make an excuse to not do the hard thing.
Check your email. Yes,
Right?
yes,
Right?
been there. Do your laundry. Oh yes, all those things, people, those count. Those are distractions.
Right,
Because
definitely.
what Sam said, you need to be making the sales call, but you're like, well, I'll take care of this in the meantime. That is gold. Oh my gosh, this has been such
Yeah.
a great conversation. I am so grateful. I know our audience is gonna freaking love this. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And
Thank you.
we didn't even get into the nuts and bolts of your business. So you'll have to come back to share that piece of the journey. There'll be a Sam part two. I can
Sure.
feel it already. So how can everyone connect with you? And I don't love the word follow, so I'm just gonna say stick with connect. How can people support you out there?
Yeah, so my brand is called the sixfigureconsultancy.com. You can visit that and connect me from there. I'm on LinkedIn as Sam Sharma Coach. If you type, you'll find me there. I predominantly do done for you and done with you, both services. Done with you is all about coaching, mentoring, training, and done for you is all technology, including AI. So either way, we cover the hats between psychology, strategies, and technology. And you can find me on different Elevate AI, LinkedIn. I'm everywhere. If you type Sam Sharma Coach, you will find me everywhere. Thank you so
And
much, Melinda.
yeah, and for everyone out there, if you are interested in connecting with Sam for like the business piece of it, his presentation about what his company does with AI was like so enlightening because it wasn't just basic like talk, let's say. So if you're interested, like definitely schedule a one-on-one with him so he can walk you through like very specifically examples of how he helps companies and leaders. So it's very cool. Love
Amazing.
it.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Melinda. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for
Thank you.
watching.
Bye.
Please
Bye.
share this. And thanks again, Sam. All right. Bye
Cheers.
for now.